So we're in such amazing times. Actually, in one sense, they are exciting times because look at what we're doing. We're bringing information via Zoom, sitting at our desks at home or wherever they are, and just bringing incredible information on things to know right now. So thanks to our readers for bringing up ideas and topics that they want to know about. And so grateful that they're appreciative of us. Just want to remind everybody, we are a 501c3 organization. We are looking for donations to keep us going. Our 30-year anniversary did in fact get postponed, so that was a major stream of revenue for us. But notwithstanding that, we want to bring information to you that will be beneficial to you today and at other times. So I'll tell you a story about long-term care insurance that I've been a proponent of it for the 30 years that I've been doing this work. And many years ago, there was a young man named Dennis Sunderman who was an life insurance broker and a long-term care insurance broker. And I asked him if he would speak to our groups, and he said, "No, Joe, people with Parkinson's are not eligible for long-term care insurance." And I said, "Well, wait a minute, what about me? I mean, I'm a caregiver, and I mean, shouldn't I have long-term care insurance? I mean, aren't we trying to save assets or money if in case something happens to me?" And he said, "Oh, yes, absolutely." So we started educating people about the benefits of long-term care insurance. Today, I'm so grateful to introduce you to a young man named Jim Lawless, who has spoken to many of our support groups in Southern California. And actually, I take him to these places and he calls me Danica Patrick because I'm the driver. And somehow we've made it all the time, Jim, but it's very fun and funny. Is it true, Jim? And thank you very much for being here. Is it true that people with Parkinson's are ineligible for all long-term care insurance?
Well, I think the short answer is yes. I keep looking for an insurance company to accept an application from someone with Parkinson's, but so far, no luck.
Okay, so then going back to what I said just a moment ago, the caregiver is the one who at this point should be considering long-term care insurance, right?
Yes, the caregiver can qualify for long-term care insurance. What's needed is a plan much earlier than most people think. The Marine Corps taught me that the creation of a plan makes life easier. The plan can determine the who, what, when, where, why, and perhaps most importantly, how funding for this plan will occur.
Okay, so so today now we're in this situation. The plan may not have been made, but long-term care insurance, my God, that's really expensive, isn't it? I mean, if you're 60 years and older, isn't it hugely expensive?
Well, that's true. If you wait till the last minute, it could be $2,000 to $4,000 out of pocket every month. And that's a pretty steep mountain to climb. But if you compare that to $100 to $300 a month, that's a molehill by comparison.
So what you're saying is that long-term care is $3,000-4,000. Actually, it's like $8,000 a month if you're in a long-term care facility, or if you're buying long-term care at home. But how much is the premium for long-term care insurance if you're 60, 65 years old?
Well, the premium could be that $100 to $300 a month. People could also put $100,000, $200,000 down on it. I don't think everybody has the assets to do it that way. So we have to develop a plan to see where the funds are going to come from and how much. I think
so it makes a lot of sense, though. So if long-term care in a facility or at home, and today's rate in California is $25 an hour for a caregiver. So if you multiply that by 24, you're at what, $400 some dollars a day if you needed 24/7 care. So when
is correct, yes.
When you take that cost, which is $100,000+ a year that is going to long-term care, for $300 or $400 a month for an insurance premium, is nothing compared to that.
That's, we're back to the mountain and the molehill. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So caregivers should be concerning themselves with getting long-term care insurance.
I would think so, especially if something happens to them and they're the only caretaker, for example, taking care of somebody with Parkinson's. What's going to happen? If the caregiver had LTC, long-term care insurance, it would be a completely different picture. But not everybody has a plan.
I know. So if the caregiver, if something happened to the caregiver and they were at home being cared for by in-home care services, and they had the person with Parkinson's there, at least if the in-home care services were taking care of the now new ill spouse, the caregiver, they would probably, if they're going to make a meal, they're going to make it for two people, right? I mean, if
Exactly right. And if they have to change a bed, I mean, you can't change half a bed.
yeah.
And if you're going to do a load of laundry, you might as well do a full load. You know, it just makes common sense.
I'm full on board with you. So tell us a little bit more about long-term care insurance. How does it come? Does it come in, do you have to buy this for the rest of your life? Do you buy this on a contract basis for 1 year, 2 years? Do you buy it how do you buy long-term care insurance?
Well, you've mentioned just about all of the possibilities, and I find that if we sit down and we work through a plan, which is free to get the plan, we can find out who's going to do what, who's going to do when, who's going to supervise. And that's a critical point. You know, if you have long-term care, you can have your children, for example, be the supervisors, and people that are hired actually do the work. And then you don't have siblings or children fighting each other over mom or dad's care. It leaves all of the kids' friends when the last of the parents expires. So it's the LTC is a really, really important part of life here in the 21st century.
Okay, but how is the insurance available? Is it, for instance, if you buy life insurance, you buy it, you buy term life, so you can do it for a short period or long period of time. You can buy whole life. Is long-term care insurance a product, or I think that's considered a product? Is it purchased the same kind of way?
I see what you're asking. I believe that most of the contracts are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I personally believe the best value for the dollar is a lifetime contract. The initial contract would be for 2, 3, or 4 years, and the secret is a continuation of benefits, which is a lifetime agreement. And that is the best value or best bang for the buck.
Yeah, if they're going to do this today. So I'm very fortunate that I got my long-term care insurance back in the day when I can't tell you how old I was, but it was very young compared to where I am today. So I'm grateful for that. But here's another question. So I have this long-term care insurance for a very long period of time. What if I never use it? Does it just go to waste if I just throw money down the tube?
That's really a great question. Generally, the basic agreement funds are returned to the heirs with the death benefit. This is like the proverbial having your cake and eating it too.
So in other words, it doesn't go to waste, but you have to understand what the contract says, or
no. The companies I work with, they all have 2, 3, and 4 year agreements, and the ones that I like is the lifetime. You add 15 or 20% on the total contract, and you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of long-term care benefits with this lifetime contract. You could pay for it a lump sum. You could pay for it over 10 years. You could pay for it over 20 years. And it's just the basic agreement with 2, 3, 4 years. And then they add on they call it continuation of benefits, which I like to call it lifetime benefits. And it really is very cost effective. But if you never use it, which was your original question, the death benefits cover the basic agreement, the 2, 3, or 4 year contract, and that's provided to whoever is listed as the beneficiary upon mom or dad's when they pass.
Actually, until I met you, I never knew that. So I just thought that what I was paying for all along was to be used or not to be used. And if I died before I ever used it, I just thought it was something that was there as my foundation to not fall through the cracks. I didn't know that it had a death benefit involved in it.
Yes, that's one of the benefits, and it really kind of mitigates the entire expense, especially if you never use it.
Yeah. So now you're talking to people throughout the United States, and some have long-term care insurance, others don't. Where would somebody get started? What kind of person would they be looking for to get long-term care insurance?
Well, the companies in the last couple of years have reduced the ability to pick up long-term care insurance down into the 30s. 30 years of age and older. It used to be limited to 40 or 50, but people are living so long and it's so cost effective when they're 30 or 40 years old that's where chronologically it can actually start.
Okay, and so I appreciate that, because that's where when I got started, I was in my 40s, and so that's really was terrific. And also the cost of it has never really gone up, so my annual premiums are really still very small compared to what if I was to purchase it today at this age. But my question to you was, what kind of insurance broker does somebody look? I mean, there's no insurance is divided into bits and pieces too. So you have auto insurance, you have health insurance, you have life insurance. Who sells long-term care insurance?
Well, just about any life insurance agent, especially in California, would sell it. The ones that would have the most knowledge would be the ones that have spent the time and got a certification. For example, I spent the time and I'm certified in long-term care. And it was quite an extensive undertaking over a couple of months, where you're hitting it 2 or 3 times a week, and then you have a exam to take, a proctored exam, and either make it or you don't. So life insurance is the one, life and health some people have, and then you want to make sure that they're certified in long-term care. You just you want to do some business with people that actually know who's on first, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so we've covered a couple of things that we can share with the world today. One, long-term care insurance for caregivers would be really important. Caregivers of people with Parkinson's, in case something happens to them, they're not usurping assets that the person with Parkinson's needs, because they would have their insurance coverage. We've covered the fact that it's so little, the cost of it is so little in comparison to a full range of long-term care. We've also covered the fact there's a death benefit in it, meaning if you don't use it, it can go back to your heirs afterwards. And we covered where to go and get it, and we certainly want to find it from a certified person or someone who we know is very knowledgeable about the plans that are available, because obviously there's more than one insurance company behind long-term care insurance, right?
Yes, and I particularly have a desire to work with a company that offers this lifetime coverage. I think if you buy something for 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, what do? Is it a flat world? Do you fall off the edge of the world? Or is somebody going to step up to the plate and take care of you? Same thing with the 3 years and the 4 years.
Well, one of the things that way long time ago, the purpose for buying at least a 4-year contract, if you couldn't get a lifetime one because that seemed too expensive, the average amount of time that a person was in a care facility, and there was the planning for Medicaid or Medi-cal that kind of went into this. So it's part of that plan that you talked about in the beginning too. So somebody needs to utilize long-term care insurance along with their other financial planning.
That's correct. That's correct. That's the idea behind the plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so even in coronavirus time, we should be actively looking for how do we take care of ourselves now if something happens to us under long-term care needs. And we should also be looking for what happens after the virus passes. So what should they be studying right now, or what should somebody be looking at for long-term care right now?
Well, I would sit down with someone and develop a plan. Without a plan, everything is helter-skelter.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, I limit my practice to private banking and retirement, disability insurance, revocable living trusts with an elder law attorney, and of course, long-term care. But in every case, it's a plan, a design plan that works for my client.
Through all the resources that we're bringing to the community right now, that seems to be the same thread that's going through: plan, plan, plan. And of course, nobody plans for a coronavirus, but certainly to plan for continuum of life, continuum of services is critically important. I'm so grateful that you're there, Jim. I'm so grateful for what you've brought to our community so far. Is there anything particular you'd like to add?
Well, I appreciate your asking. First, many common questions are answered on my website at lawlessmba.com. Second, if you don't find an answer on the website, let's have a conversation. Call me and we'll schedule a date, time, and attempt to answer all your questions. Third, and best of all the consults are free.
I think that's terrific. But as important as that is, now you're going to have people throughout the United States calling you in droves. I hope you can handle all of them. But if they can't find you by what you just said, then they actually can go to the Wellness Village on our website, click under long-term care insurance, find Jim Lawless, and go directly to your site from that.
That'll work.
I know. So I'm so grateful again. Thank you so much. We won't be going on the road for a while, so hunker down and stay well and wash your hands.
Okay. You too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.